Hello and welcome to another Debating Europe expert panel with me, Joe Lidobarski. I'm the editor-in-chief of Debating Europe, and we're back in the European Parliament, in the Voxbox, for the first time since before the pandemic. So I'm really happy to be joined by a panel of experts and policymakers today to talk about digital skills, how governments and businesses can best support the development of digital skills. And this is a hybrid event. So we've learned from all of the online debates that we're doing that we have done during the pandemic, and we're going to try using some of our digital skills to see if this will work. So first of all, let me introduce our panel today. We have got with us Ana Carrero, Deputy Head of Unit Vocational Education and Training from DG Employment from the European Commission. Ana, welcome. Thank you, Anna. Tatiana Braposkiene, member of the European Economic and Social Committee. Welcome, Tatiana.
Hi, and thank you for inviting. I'm excited.
We're joined by Maria Walsh, who is an Irish MEP who sits with the European People's Party group in the European Parliament. Maria, welcome.
Thank you, and welcome back to the Parliament.
It's good to be here. Very good. And online, we also have Inga Paus, who's Public Affairs Director for Europe at the technology company Google. Inga, welcome.
Thanks for having me, even virtually.
Even virtually, indeed. And today's topic, we are talking about digitalization. We're talking about the digital transition. What I really want to get into here is how can we have a just and fair digital transition that doesn't leave people behind? And we're going to start off with some questions that have been sent into us from citizens on our platform, debatingeurope.eu. The first one is Saklan, who asks, what specific digital skills should people be learning? I love this question because it basically asks, what are digital skills? What do you mean? What are we talking about? How can governments, SMBs, that's small and medium-sized businesses, and job seekers accurately assess which digital skills are most in demand by the labour markets? I think this sets up the debate really nicely. Anna, let's talk about how the Commission sees this. I know the Commission has been holding this structured dialogue on digital education and skills with member states, so this is something that you've been looking at. How would you answer Saklan's question? What are the challenges of the digital skills debate for you?
Okay, a very difficult question to start with. You know that at the Commission we are very much aware of this challenge, and that is why we have put very ambitious objectives in place to achieve by 2030. We want people to achieve basic digital skills, at least 80% of the adult population, and we also want at least 20 million ICT specialists employed with a balance between men and women. And to achieve these objectives, we need the right policies in place because the challenge is immense. And that is why in 2022 we launched a dialogue to hold at top level with member states, at EU level as well, with all sorts of stakeholders, to see how we can better support the member state in this endeavor, and also to see what are the gaps and challenges that we still need to address. So in this respect, I would say that it's very important to have the right investments that are impactful, meaning connectivity, the right infrastructure and equipment, and at all education and training institutions, also for adults, of course. We also need a whole-of-government approach, meaning coordination across ministries, meaning labor market, education and training, universities, finance, industry. They all need to be on board designing and implementing these policies. But we also need to talk to social partners, industry, and other stakeholders to be able to make these policies effective, and also to understand what are really the labor market needs in terms of digital, the skills intelligence we need to design and implement the policies.
Interesting.
And we don't need only basic skills for the labor market or for the citizens, but we also need advanced digital skills and build up a pipeline that provides the labor market with these advanced digital skills.
Okay.
And these are the basics we are trying to convey to the member states and support them in this endeavor. Of course, we have many tools in place to help them doing so, but maybe we can have the time to talk about it later.
We're definitely, we're going to go into I think some of the specifics, but I want to, first of all, just see where each of you kind of sits on this. So Maria, from the perspective of the European Parliament, what are your thoughts on what you've heard? Are you kind of satisfied with the way that the European Commission sees the challenge? Would you add anything else to what Anna said?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think we do have a disconnect in terms of when I think of digital skills, or when I talk to third levels, or any age category, you're thinking coding, programming, the very prestigious digital sector that we keep being told that hasn't even been developed yet. Whereas for my where I would like, and certainly from a young Irish MEP and then from someone who sits here on the Employment Committee as well as the Culture and Education Committee, is exactly as you had shared. We need to start with the softer digital tools. About 90% of jobs require email, Word, Excel. I'm currently clicking through my laptop right now to make sure I'm naming all the devices that I use, and I think that would offer the confidence and also connect that disconnect. When we look at even the EU's commissioning reports on who does it well and who needs to do a lot more work, you see the likes of my own country of Ireland, Finland, Netherlands, but then on the flip side you have Bulgaria, Romania and I believe Poland. Whereas when we talk about any sort of equality, be it in the work or social stream of the EU, we can't have one side of the EU benefiting over the other. So that competency has to be across the board. Because when we send third level students to do Erasmus, when we see lifelong learners traveling from one side of the EU or north or west, east or south, then it's really important that so too there's their digital skills as well as the environment they're about to step into. To the point with the Commission in terms of skills gaps, and when we look at EU overall, there's a company called Abodu, a young female entrepreneur, Vanessa Tierney, who does phenomenal work at working with local councillors. I'm trying to get her into Ireland more so. She's an Irish company, but she's doing more work outside of Ireland. Which is a shame because, to your point on member states, we have to wake up to the fact that we have skills gaps. COVID-19 has presented us opportunities to look at redeveloping rural areas. We need broadband and access to Wi-Fi or stronger data connections for that in order for entrepreneurs to grow, for SMEs to grow, for third levels to grow, and that we're not cutting people off to say, once you finish third level, you're done in the lifelong learning journey, i.e. digital skills. Like, you know, we're living older, wiser, better. Therefore, we need to make sure we're looking at the digital gap across all ages and not just some. I hope that answers that.
It does, and I think it answers Saklin's question, but it poses a new kind of question. because listen to both of you. I mean, you both very persuasively argue why digital skills, the challenge has to cover both basic skills, advanced skills, it has to kind of meet all these challenges. And it seems like the question then becomes, okay, so where do we prioritize? You know, what do we think is the most urgent set? Do we focus on basic skills? Do we focus on advanced kind of skills in machine learning and all these kind of new technologies, or do we try to do everything at once? Tatiana, let me bring you in to see what you think about this. So when Saklin asks what specific digital skills should people be learning, what do we mean by digital skills, maybe the question should be, what is the priority? Should it be basic skills? Should it be advanced? What do you think?
I would say the set of skills where digital is a component is that you need social, emotional, adaptability and also resilience skills. That's what COVID-19 showed us. Because digital skills is something like you are communicating with your bank, you are communicating with the food provider, you are also communicating with your relatives. During the COVID pandemic, it happened that grandparents didn't see their children and grandchildren, and it's the only way to communicate was the social networks. And then if communicating social network is different if you are communicating face-to-face. Sometimes even persons are reported as sounding rude or not polite or whatsoever. It's not because the person was not like this, but it's because of the different way of communication with the social, with the digital, being digital. So I would say that let's not put digital as a part of all this. I mean, we have to see that like from the holistic perspective. And then I think that we're on the right way. And basic for all, that's of course the key. And then when we speak about sectors, some sectors are different from the other sectors. In some sectors, like those who went digital just in 2 years, are still basic is okay. But some sectors are now requiring high level skills. And this is something which is we're also lagging behind even India and United States. So Europe is has a lot to do in this respect.
Interesting. Okay, so in fact that makes it incredibly broad. That means, I mean, it's about beyond just the economy. It's about how do you interact with society. During the pandemic, we all saw this. We were kind of
skills for life. It's
exactly
skills not just for job.
Yeah, Inga, let me bring you in here and see what your perspective is on this. So if we're talking about kind of what is the challenge and you know, what specific digital skills should we be talking about it? Should we be focusing on? Would you agree with what's being said? Do you think it should be narrowed, or is there kind of a broad, holistic, kind of whole of society approach the right one to take?
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more to the holistic approach. I mean, for good reasons, concepts like the 21st century skills arose, which is a combination of basic digital skills, but also competencies. To go back to the questions of Seklan, I think what we heard is policies, preconditions, infrastructures, but also the kind of conceptual frameworks you need to agree on what the objective looks like with regards to digital skills, as outlined, for example, in the DESI index. But how we at Google think about this and approach this, as we are doing skills trainings already in Europe since 2015, together with a lot of partners, is really trying to understand what the mix looks like. So, and this is why we partner with national governments, with employer associations, even with nonprofits and education specialists, because each European country is different. Yeah, for example, you can do a lot of things to advance basic digital skills, but if you want to go more into the sector specific, you need particular partners. I'll give you one example. We work with Enterprise Ireland to make sure that we really uplift small businesses in general, but we work with the e-commerce, the Commerce and Retail Association, HDE in Germany, which was really crucial for SMBs during the pandemic to make sure they can continue their business. Or we work with the Ministry for Tourism in Greece and do some very specific tourism related basic digital skills training. So to answer the question of Sekl, there is no silver bullet. It needs to be a mix. It's a journey from basic to more advanced skills and then sector specific skills. It's ever evolving. What was true 5 years ago before the pandemic might not be true anymore heading into the economic crisis we are seeing at the moment. So it's a big effort. So let's make sure that we partner on this together.
Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. Let's zoom into the SMB sector, the small and medium business sector. And let's bring in the next question from Michal, who points out that many SMBs are struggling with inflation right now. We've got a great deal of economic stability with the war in Ukraine, and even coming out of the pandemic, the energy prices are very high. He says, do you really think companies on the verge of bankruptcy are going to be investing in digital systems and skills? If they're worried about keeping the lights on, is digitalization something that they're going to have the kind of bandwidth for? I'm going to go around the panel again. I'll start with you, Maria, if that's okay. So what would you say to Michal? Does Michal make a fair point, do you think?
I think he makes a fair point. Assuming it's a he, I'm going to put a pronoun of he on it. Apologies if it's a she. They make a fair point in the sense of there is priorities facing SMEs, and bear in mind anybody watching thinking, well, I'm an SME with 10 people, not an SME with 250 people, and that's how broad range that is. But education and upskilling, retraining and training in general is an absolute essential if we are going to come out of any recession, any cost of living crisis, any war, and after the pandemic. We've seen a number of businesses, both large and small, governments here in the European Union as a whole invest into understanding and trying to build the roadmaps in order for us to become the digital centre of the world. And I think what we need to do here in the Parliament in particular, and put pressure on member states to enact, is lift in the bureaucracy and the red tape of trying to get funding to the businesses to make sure their lights stay on so that they can keep growing their business in a digital platform or with the digital print. And if the bricks and mortar of businesses need to change, then the likes of community hubs, both in rural and urban areas right across the EU, then need to start popping up in order that we're housing these SMEs in order to grow out their footprint, regardless of where their bricks and mortar needs to be. And I think that's where we need to be courageous and brave in supporting the businesses that are ultimately going to see us out of all of this in the digital way.
Okay, Tatiana, same question to you. I mean, the context, I think, is important, not just because many businesses and individuals are facing these pressures, but also because there are funds which have been investment, the reconstruction, there's Repower EU, there's Next Generation EU, there's the kind of funding which has been kind of unlocked in order to invest. So, how do you see the context of the energy crisis, the cost of living crisis affecting this debate on digital skills?
I think that what's happening now, and we observed that already, I mean, even before the pandemic, that to stay competitive for any business, it's must. It's not just need, this is must. Think that they have to be digital. I can give you an example. If you have a flower shop, for example, traditional flower shop, and then you do fantastically everything. So you still continue to do collect apprentices and make fantastic bouquets and compositions, etc. And then the flower shop next street is going digital and providing this like advertisement in this district, saying that what on the store, what flowers they have, what kind of services they arrange, what they can decorate, for example. And they also collect kind of from the digitally, they collect what are the needs in this local community in terms of flowers, what is their, what they like, what they dislike. They can do also kind of feedback on this. And you see immediately that you are not competitive. You have to close your shop. Even maybe your flowers are more beautiful, your compositions are more beautiful. For the societies already, which society is also becoming digital. And some, of course, are somewhere abroad. My mom is living in one city, I'm in another city. I find that this nearby there is flower shop. I do tick, select the composition, do the delivery, and she's receiving beautiful flowers. Instead of asking some relatives or friends or whatever, bothering someone, I do professional services. So it's happening already. So the awareness of the employers and employees also, because sometimes the initiative is coming from the employees, say, let's do this, let's digitalize this, let's create website. Let's do kind of marketing, etc. So it's there. Yeah. So let's hope.
But these are additional pressures then in order to both keep up. And this maybe is a good place to turn to Anna, because in the beginning, first question I was asking you, and you were like, oh, we'll probably get into the specifics later. Well, let's get into the specifics now. What is the Commission planning in terms of supporting SMBs, given all these pressures that we've been talking about?
Indeed, I think we've made quite an effort to put many tools in place to accompany the digital transformation, and more specifically SMEs as well. There is quite significant EU funding available, channeled through different investment tools. First and foremost, we have the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is funding the recovery and resilience plans of member states. I know that we've put a lot of effort to invest in digital, at least 20%, and many countries are making good use of this money also to support SMEs in their digitalization pathway, be it through digitalization toolkits, experts that are trying to counsel SMEs to achieve digitalization and train their employees. So every country has chosen their own path, but many are investing in this area. But we also have cohesion policy. That we are currently finalizing negotiation of the programs with the member states. ERDF invests a lot in SMEs and smart specialization strategies, but we also have the European Social Fund, which is the main tool to invest in human capital. And there will be significant training available, not only for job seekers, but also for workers that need to upskill or reskill, particularly in SMEs, to adapt to the digital transformation according to each member state priorities and needs, of course. We also have Digital Europe program, which is a tool mainly for advanced digital skills. And through this tool, we have developed digital crash courses for SMEs that are available online and for free on the Digital Skills and Jobs platform. So I invite everybody to check it out and make the most of it. But I would like also to mention a new tool that we are trying to encourage member states to use it. It's the individual learning accounts. This would be entitlements for the upskilling and reskilling of the individuals. These tools, many member states are trying to put in place pilots. Some of
France is France piloting? Paris is...
France was a pioneer,
yes,
let's say.
okay,
but many others are piloting with RRF and also with ESF. And many, they are trying to pilot on a specific area, for instance, with digital skills. So in this guidance that we gave member states, we also paid a lot of attention to the companies, meaning that we encourage member states to talk to social partners to see how to put this in place, and also to allow for a special leave for workers, if possible, and also to try to find a compensation for the companies and support them, especially if they are small. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that in the State of the Union, Mrs. von der Leyen, she mentioned that next year will be the European Year of Skills, so more things could come.
We can debate every day then.
Inga, can I bring you in here and hear what your kind of perspective on this is? Because we've heard, I think quite persuasively, the importance of digital skills, not just for the economy, but also for all aspects of life. We've heard about some of the pressures and the challenges, and we've heard what the Commission is planning. From your perspective, how would you... Michal clearly has some serious concerns about now being the right time to be having this kind of conversation. What would you say to kind of reassure Michal, or what do you think needs to be done to reassure Michal?
Yeah, funnily, we ask ourselves exactly the same question. Are skills the answer to a multiple crisis situation in which SMEs are? And we came to the conclusion, yes, even more, because I mean, our programs are not for accidentally called Grow with Google, and that was even more true during the pandemic. The example of the flower shop is actually a real-life example. There's a Berlin flower shop who really kind of grow his business during the pandemic because of digitizing his marketing and sales channels. Really, really lovely examples. Many, many examples across Europe. The thing is, what we learned during the pandemic is digitized SMEs are much more resilient against crisis. They have even higher revenues during crisis situation. They hire more people. And but this crisis might be different. It has multiple facets. COVID might have been a walk on the park compared to what we are facing here. So we are currently conducting a research with Kantar to try to understand if SMEs are at risk to deprioritizing digitization and what's holding them back. And one of the first results we heard was actually, apart from access to funding, this is why the recovery and resilience mechanism is so important, cybersecurity concerns, clearly digital skills are a main blocker. So we should even double down in this situation. I was really delighted to hear that our Commission President really mentioned the Year of Skills for 2023 to make sure that all the SMEs in Europe can really thrive, not only survive, but really thrive during the crisis we might face in the next years.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I've got 4 questions left, and I want to put one to each of you. So you'll have about 30 seconds to answer each one. So we'll kind of try to kind of get through all of them if we can. Let's start with Maria, if that's okay. We'll start with you. This is
I'm going to eat most of their 30 seconds, but I'll keep it short, I promise.
Oh, okay, I'm going to keep you to that. Okay, so this is from Funi, who says, anyone of working age today who does not have digital skills will not learn them in this lifetime. No programs will help. I mean, given what we've just heard today, that's a pretty pessimistic kind of, people are worried about being left behind. They're worried that, indeed, if you don't have these digital skills, you're going to be kind of locked out of all of these things that we've talked about. What would you say to Funi?
I'm disappointed to read such a question, only because I've seen personally and through my professional work here as an MEP of the impact any age, regardless of whether you're an early school leaver, you're back to school or a mature student, who's embracing the challenge of digital training and building their confidence of going back into a classroom, be it digitally or in the physical sense. As I mentioned earlier, we are living older, and therefore the digital skills, to much everybody has been sharing, will continue to develop and evolve. Financial literacy, I believe, was mentioned. How we order everything from flowers to groceries to even our eyeglasses has evolved, and therefore we need cohorts of all people, be it urban or rural, from one side of the European Union to the other. That includes the islands off our European Union, because I think they often get mixed in the conversation, to also develop and develop the essential skills. So once we continue to do our work here and with the Commission and Member States, that connection needs to grow, as well as the funding streams need to deliver too. And just to Funny's point, just to flag, in 2019, pre-COVID, just under 11% of the EU students were mature stepping into a third level sector. So and I would only imagine, or I would only hope, that would be exacerbated post-COVID, because we had access to online and the ease of learning a new skill, perhaps in the comforts of our own home. So I would say no to that, but I hope I'm not proven wrong either.
No, okay, well actually that's a lovely link to the next question. This is for Inga. This is from Pedro, who says that his mother found herself unemployed because of COVID-19 and got countless hours of learning programs for free, and is now much better equipped with digital skills, which is much more optimistic. I mean, that's a positive story. There are lots of digital skills resources available for free, but are they being properly signposted to job seekers and SMBs so they can take advantage of what's already available? Inga, what would you say?
Yeah, I think Pedro's mother is a really great example, really encouraging. But the problem is, this is not the reality of many people who are in demand for upskilling. And in particular, if we think about more vulnerable groups of job seekers, whatever, single moms, people who have been unemployed for quite a while, they need special programs and support. And how we did this, for example, again, together with partners, we provided not only certificates, career certificates, which are providing job level entry trainings for high demand jobs, what have you, IT administration, etc., marketing, but they really work together. We work together with local NGOs who are providing scholarships and extra support for these groups. This is a partnership between Google.org and INCU, and this network of 30 partners in Europe. And we realized that leads to far lower dropout rates. People have much better experiences when they do the Google certificates. And I think that's key to success, to be mindful of the situation of job seekers and understand what they need to make sure this is going to be a success.
Thank you, Inga. No, I think that's an excellent point. And actually that maybe takes us to the next question from Joe, who argues that upskilling is great for employers, because their staff will learn for free on the internet in their own time. But is this fair? How can people learn digital skills when they must juggle a full-time job, family, and other commitments at the same time? Tatiana, maybe you want to respond to Joe?
Yeah, it's very easy, because actually now there are digital courses, online courses, let's say, available. They allow most, for example, to have this education in pieces and any time which is comfortable for you. It's also, maybe I have to mention two initiatives, excellent initiatives coming from the Commission and of course supported also by the ESC and then of course by Council. That is individual learning account and micro-credentials, which should be complementary to each other. Because micro-credentials is exactly, you get small credits and then you build qualification or whatever you want through validation process. And individual learning account, it's money which accumulated on the account of each adult, doesn't matter of his or her status. And also this is going with the implementation of the Pillar of Social Rights. So I hope that these instruments will also help all the EU citizens to somehow find the way how to invest in their own skills. I do understand, because we speak about small and medium enterprises. I somehow am coming from trade unions, but I understand also these employers who don't have more employees to replace the one who wants to get some training. But we shouldn't forget that it's not only a financial mechanism, there are also non-financial mechanisms, and time is exactly non-financial mechanisms. So when I give to employee, for example, time for learning, it's also investment. Time is money. Yeah, that's obvious if we are translating like this. So let's hope the implementation of ILA and micro-credentials will be smooth in member states.
Okay, a final question, we've got a final word to Anna. Now, I know education is not a competency of the EU, really, so this is maybe an unfair question, but I'm going to put it to you and I'll try and kind of spin it in a way that you can answer it comfortably. So Tom says, are we even investing in the training of the people that can teach employees to use digital tools? Maybe that's a question for the member states, but it brings up this question of quality, right? If we're going to have all of these micro-credentials, if we're going to have individual learning accounts, how are we going to make sure that the quality of digital skills certification is high, that the training is quality training, that the people who have to deliver the trainings have the kind of the skills they need to teach people? So what would you say to that? Final word of the panel.
Yes, well, I started with the structured dialogue, and I have to say that this is one of the aspects we touch upon with every single member state. We always ask, how do you train your teachers, the initial training? Do you also plan for continuous learning? Because, I mean, they need to adapt to the new trends, to the new digital pedagogies, but also on digital skills. And we need to make sure that they put policies in place that allow for that. And the funding that we mentioned before that is available allows to channel part of these investments in the qualification of teachers, either initial qualification or continuous learning. It would also qualify to invest and support people in SMEs that then would train the other employees to acquire those skills needed in that context of their activities. So there are many options. I also have to announce that all this dialogue that we are having, it's enabling us to gather input and evidence also for some upcoming proposals for next year on the provision of digital skills and enabling factors for digital education. And I'm sure, I mean, part of these concerns will be addressed.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. I think we could go on, I'm sure, but we'll have, and as you said, next year, the year of skills, so I'm sure we will have this conversation again. But we're out of time now. Thank you so much for watching at home. Thank you to my panel and to Inga remotely for joining us. We could hear you nice and clearly, so it worked. We had the digital skills to pull this off, so I'm happy. Please, if you want to ask us more questions on this, go to our website, debatingeurope.eu. Obviously, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. Please do. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. And thank you to my panel again for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.